welcome to The Album Man, and today I'm taking a look at Turn Blue by the Black Keys. Released on May 12, 2014, the Black Keys give us their follow-up to 2011's El Camino by the name, as I said, of Turn Blue, in which we see the band traverse through different musical landscapes to the ones we are used to hearing them on. The hard rockin' garage blues have largely been replaced here, but by what? What is it that makes this record from Dan Auerbach and Patrick Carney so different and unique in their catalogue? To me, really, the statement of this album, what really sets the tone for the entire album sonically, is the opening track, Weight of Love. And this is just an utterly unexpected song, as instead of a 3-minute garagey blues song like Lonely Boy on El Camino, the Keys give us a 6-minute Pink Floyd-esque spacey opening track that's almost reminiscent of Shine On You Crazy Diamond from the Wish You Were Here album. Particularly in sort of the opening 1 minute 45, and then you get the bass riff which drives the song along and Dan's voice coming in. Here they create sort of a mellow, moody and subdued atmosphere full of nuance and instrumentation, as well as the melodic sensibilities you come to expect from the Black Keys, as the song builds to this terrific crescendo when Dan unleashes hell on the guitar and plays probably his greatest, just most explosive, powerful solo to date, as these two guitars recorded by him just almost seem to jaw in a Freebird-esque manner. This is just amazing. Just create this monstrous soaring sound over Pat's drumming before bringing it back down. This is definitely one of their best songs without a shadow of a doubt. It's epic, hypnotic, and a statement to make at the start of the album. I also think it's the perfect opener for this album, considering what follows from it. It definitely sets the tone of the album. This is not as much of a light-hearted, fun album as the Keys have produced in the past, but instead something a bit more subdued, a record that will take time to appreciate, more of a grow. It's not as immediate as what we've come to see. I really do think this album turns the Black Keys on their heads and is a big departure from their previous few albums. And I mean, first I just want to address some of there seems to be quite a bit of hate towards the producer Brian Burton, or Danger Mouse, for the Keys. I think their first album with him was Attack and Release, I believe. I haven't actually heard that album, so I'm not too sure. Personally though, I like what Burton has actually done with the Keys. I think he's refined that raw, gritty garage blues into something just better, just a bit more refined. I mean, I can understand why some fans don't like it. He's sort of taken sandpaper to the jagged edges of Dan Auerbach's sound, but I honestly think El Camino is their masterpiece. What surprises me is just, well, particularly El Camino, at the time of their release, I mean, I had zero interest in bands. I honestly wrote them off as a sort of a slightly bluesy, crappy pop rock band, but the more I've listened to them, the more I've come to appreciate on El Camino the variety of songs, just the sound, the big distorted riffs and organs of Gold on the Ceiling, the electrifying crescendo to Little Black Submarines, or the kind of funky bass of Mind Eraser with a huge chorus. And many of the songs, they're just so anthemic, yet also distorted, bluesy, and have a bit of an edge to them. And they're just, I think, a really interesting garage rock band, continuing from that White Stripes style of music. Not to compare the two directly, I'm aware of various things between them. On Turn Blue, I find them to be a little more monochromatic. The songs seem to blend into one another and not really distinguish themselves stylistically as much as I found on El Camino. I mean, I understand they were going for a certain type of sound, and the album, you know, it just all feels so mellow, so subdued. The moments it stands out, really, are the more upbeat moments, the more up-tempo ones, which I really think are what the Keys are best at. Not to say they can't do mellow, as the intro to Little Black Submarines is just beautiful, but I really think they're at their best when they're writing sort of catchy, bluesy pop rock songs, honestly. And I think this is really shown by the fact that one of the best tracks on the album is Fever, well, in my opinion. This is the lead single from the album. I mean, it can be looked at in two ways. The first way it can be looked at is that it's just a typical Black Keys single of the last few years with a catchy chorus and organ-based melody and just, you know, in the chorus, and there's nothing innovative or original. or simply, like me, you just enjoy it for being one of the most irresistibly catchy songs of 2014. I mean, I don't care that this is their commercial song and their single, like Tighten Up or Gold on the Ceiling before it, but it's just so well crafted with that tight rhythm from Pat, some fuzzy guitar. I love the organs. I really love the sort of organ keyboardy sound that's been incorporated into their music. I think it's a really interesting element and it adds a lot to their sound. It's just something that bit different, I find. And this is just one of the things that I love about the Keys. They just do sort of pop orientated songs, but right. And this is no exception. But yeah, it also does distinguish itself slightly from their previous singles, so sort of the modern psychedelic vibe that runs throughout the album. It definitely fits inside this album. Again, another highlight in the same vein as Fever is the last track on the album, Gotta Get Away. This is almost like the song that Leonard Skinner never wrote. This is sort of a driving down the desert highway type song, with a big 70s classic bluesy rock feel, and it wouldn't feel too out of place if, yeah, as I said, on a Skinner album or some of it ZZ Top. This song just has so much energy to it, and it's one of the few with a sort of a real distorted guitar riff throughout. A lot of the songs don't have as much of a riff as they're creating more of an atmosphere. You then get this chorus, which really should make the song a #1 single if it was ever released as a single. It's just such a big chorus, and a killer guitar solo as well. This song just rocks all round. It seems to have everything that the rest of the album doesn't. It does feel maybe a little out of place at the end of the album. I mean, while the lyrics aren't as positive as you come to know, this is more of a bittersweet, and lyrically this whole album definitely has more of a bittersweet vibe. This is still a bit more uplifting musically, and it's a wonderful 3-minute closer, even if it is a bit different from the rest of the album. I think that's what sets it apart, in my opinion. Another of the spacier songs I like really is Bullet in the Brain, though I can't help but point out its remarkable similarity to Breathe by Pink Floyd from, of course, their Dark Side of the Moon album. The acoustic bit does sound remarkably similar, so similar I had to look at the chord progressions, and yeah, they're similar. On Breathe it's sort of an E minor A on the acoustic guitar, and here it's E minor A G. And combined with the spacey vibes and similar rhythm, it makes me feel that maybe Dan was a little bit too inspired on this song. And then the lead playing as well, and the bass, just everything sounds a little bit too Breathe-esque. But then I think this song really takes off when it escapes the Floyd worship and goes to the heavier bass sound with keys over the top before we get this sort of quite indie rock almost chorus. He certainly might not necessarily think was the Keys off the bat, but I think the swelling organ over the top makes sense and adds to the general feel. It's definitely another melodic song, and another very enjoyable song on the album. Though where this album starts to fall flat a little is with the least distinct and memorable songs on the album. Something like 10 Lovers with its dancey drum beat and super funky bass line. It's very much, again, has a sort of an indie vibe. I mean, hell, that intro when the synths come in, I could almost mistake for a Kaiser Chiefs song if I just had that intro on the radio. I mean, there is nothing awful about it. There's a pleasant melody to it, and the chorus is alright, but it's just not too dissimilar from the other songs on the album. I mean, I understand this album is a subtler work than the previous, the Black Keys' previous work even, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm just not sure it works all round on this album. I just don't think this is a sound they do as well as their traditional garage rock blues sound. I'd certainly be interested to hear what they could do with it in the future, but I certainly wouldn't be upset if they ditched it next album. And again, on this song, just the solos, I mean, it follows a fairly basic follow the melody solo, you know, just like playing from Smells Like Teen Spirit. It doesn't particularly spark my imagination all that much. Or something like It's Up To You Now. This is an odder song on the album, and again, one that just doesn't work terribly well, which is surprising because I usually prefer Dan's playing when it's covered in distortion, but the main riff does not draw me in here. Certainly nowhere near in the same way that something like on the Lonely Boy riff drew me in. This song, again, it's rather chilled, relaxed, mellow. It just has a weaker hook. It's a bit duller. It's not that memorable. Again, pleasant, doesn't disrupt the flow of the album or the vibe, but it just, I wouldn't know or care really if it wasn't on the album. The musicianship on this record is generally good, but I do feel that the guitar playing is a little sparse or not as prominent or bombastic in the mix. And yeah, okay, that's because the music, it wouldn't fit that as much. I mean, still, the guitar solos overall are good, they do the job, but they don't necessarily excel as much, except in the bookend tracks on the album. The bass seems more of a driving feature of the album, more of a focal point, which is just an interesting change. And some people have commented on Pat's drumming on the album. I would say that it's slightly more mechanical, perhaps. I mean, this is a record that sort of demands precise on the metronome rhythm and doesn't really deviate much from the main beat on the album. There isn't much room for fills or animalistic Keith Moon's type garage drumming like you might find on, if you listen to some Royal Blood singles, where that drummer just goes mental under the bass riffs of that band. Here it's a lot more restrained, I would say, maybe than we've had on earlier Black Keys releases. And in general, production, I think I like the production, honestly. If everything's clear, crisp, the tones on the guitar and the drums, bass are all spot on. Everything that the mix is excellent. I really have no qualms about it. I think it does everything it needs to. Though just because I haven't praised every aspect of this album does not mean that it is one I don't enjoy, as I find a lot to like about it. I generally like the overall vibe and theme to the album, even though I've been a little critical that it's slightly monochromatic. I still like the subdued, mellower nature and find it interesting, and it's cool that the Black Keys can just craft something different. I mean, a good example, again, of this sound that the album has, Waiting on Words, yet another Floyd-inspired song, gently strummed acoustic and electric chords of the opening on top of each other, and then just the beautifully sung, soulful and bittersweet lyrics of the song are truly excellent. I mean, Dan really puts every fibre of his being into singing this song. It's just the layers pile and pile on, the song grows and grows. It really is heartfelt, soulful, and just so melodic. I really love the song. It's one I often seem to come back to in the album. But I just don't feel this is as strong as their previous episodes. It's an interesting deviation, without a doubt. And yes, it lacks the immediacy of our Camino brothers. It took me a few listens to get into this album, and I feel I have got into the album. It's definitely something I'm going to be coming back to throughout the year, and an album I enjoy a lot. But I just feel it's not as interesting, possibly, as our Camino or Brothers. Their new Floyd Hawkwind sound, I don't think they have mastered in the same way they've mastered that garage blues, White Stripes-like sound. So yes, I'm going to be giving this album a 7.5 out of 10. I like the focus on atmosphere. I find that it detracts slightly from the melody, and the guitarists just aren't there. But there's definitely something for you to enjoy on this album. I definitely recommend it to fans of psychedelic music and more, as I said, Floyd, Hawkwind, that sort of spacey music, as well as Black Keys fans. I really think this is an album you should check out. Again, 7.5 out of 10. This has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.